let us just give a few minutes to a few colleagues that are about to arrive and we are about to start. Thank you very much.
Muy buenos días, ya casi vamos a arrancar. Estaban viendo en su pantalla
Good
los
morning.
productos.
We are about to start. On your screen, we've got the products by Conocimiento. So we're going to be sending this information as well after this presentation so you get to know a little bit more about this initiative of agrocarbon. We've got quite a few people already on the webinar. So let us start with the session. We have a very brief video of instructions on interpretation. So let it play, please.
El IICA le da la bienvenida a este evento y agradece su participación. Habilite su micrófono solo en el momento que le den la palabra. Es importante mantenerlo en silencio cuando otra persona está hablando. Para esta reunión contaremos con interpretación simultánea a través de la plataforma Zoom. En la parte inferior del Zoom encontrará un icono con un globo, con la palabra interpretación. Por favor, dar clic en esta opción y seleccionar el idioma que desea escuchar. Es muy importante que seleccione alguna de las opciones al momento de hablar, ya que esto permitirá una mejor interpretación. Al finalizar el video, les pedimos el favor de hacer silencio durante 30 segundos. Una vez finalizado ese tiempo, el moderador o conductor puede iniciar la reunión.
Muchas gracias, Adri, por el video.
Thank you very much for having played that video, folks. welcome once again. Thank you very much for your interest in this topic. As you well know, this is the first webinar of a series of three events that we have programmed, we have scheduled is as part of agrocarbon. Today, we're going to be talking about unblocking climate financing for agriculture. And we've got experts, regional experts, that today will be sharing their vantage points. We will have three presentations, 12 minutes each, and that will be about the time we're going to be investing today so that we will not be staying here for over 1 hour. Nevertheless, I'd like to say that we will be sharing the form so that you can continue to stay in touch and the materials and the videos, both in Spanish and English, will also be available for this webinar and the coming webinars as well. So thank you very much for being here with us today. So good morning, good afternoon for all of those that have just recently listened. My name is Katia Fajardo. I am the coordinator for the Resilient Agriculture Program in the IICA, Inter-American Institute of Cooperation and Agriculture, which is the headquarters in San Jose, Costa Rica. This is an event that has been organized by the Secretariat, and ICA is part of the initiative for integrality of the volunteer carbon markets. So thank you, the VCMI. So thank you very much. And now I'll give the floor to my colleague Sandra Garavito so that she can proceed with her presentation. Sandra is a regional expert and she has a very in-depth knowledge, and she'll start this panel by providing a highlight on the role of the conditions that are enabling so that we can provide climate financing for agriculture in Latin America. And all of these events before COP30 um, will look to have or to provide more continuity so that we can have more information in the region. Without further ado, Sandra, welcome. But before that, just let you know that you do have your code of the materials that need to be sent, and all of your questions that you have will have at the end. So please use the Q&A box, type your questions in both in English and Spanish, and we will be addressing them after that presentation. And again, remember, we do have simultaneous interpretation. Thank you very much, folks, again. And again, Sandra, welcome. Thank you, Sandra. Greetings to all of us that are here today and my colleagues from the planning. So let me just share my screen. Let me know if you can see it, folks, please. Okay, I think we can see it. Okay, let me see. Let's just set it in the presentation mode.
Bueno, yo quisiera
So
iniciar.
first off, I'd like to start by thanking you folks for this invite to this webinar. I believe it's a very important topic, given the moment that the carbon markets are coming forward and a lot of decisions are being made on different fronts. So I think this is a webinar that makes a lot of sense for the region and for the creation of the policies that all of the governments are doing right now. So before we get into topic, I'd like to share a little bit about the initiative of agrocarbon. It's an initiative that started off in 2023 by a ministry mandate, and it looks to accelerate the participation of the agriculture sector in the carbon market of high integration. So we have done various activities to strengthen or to build capacities with different governments. We have engaged with many governments in the region just to be able to understand these needs to strengthen the capacity in the carbon markets and in the agriculture sector. And we have also provided information and documents that can be of great interest for the governments in order to develop different policies and different initiatives and guidelines in the carbon markets. We are also, we have the great good news of having the first course for decision makers. So we are providing support for capacity building on learning for all decision makers. And we're going to be talking about that, about different tools that are going to be helping us in this objective. So this is just a high level look of the initiative. We do have a group of experts that have been helping the initiative to identify the needs and opportunities and providing, of course, the knowledge, the technical knowledge to move forward in this initiative. So, why is public policy relevant? I'd like to address the question to begin with. So I'd like to start by saying that there is most definitely a finance gap in the agri-food systems globally receive only about 4.3% of climate finance and just 2.2 for mitigation. So there is a huge gap, an important gap in finance in our region and at the global level. Um, so there is a great potential. Agriculture has high potential, but faces barriers that have to do with government policies, with access, with the very structure of the sector. Finance is not being reached, and it's not being reached by small scale producers. So this situation of channeling resources that is being um, prevented by different sectors. We can also see that carbon markets remain small in agriculture, though they do represent a very important mitigation opportunity. So, so it's important to see where are those capacities that we can bring to the different governments, decision makers, small scale producers to move forward in the participation of carbon markets and voluntary carbon market, the VCM. We understand that it has been greatly transformed and it's still undergoing that transformation. We are talking about the volume has been very interesting, mostly in 2021 and 2022, but we still can see a great interest in these markets and Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Some of the agreements that are being signed between different countries include activities in the agricultural sector. So, two main takeaways. First, the gap in the finance gap in the agri-food systems that actually contribute in the sector contribute over 15% of the GDP in many of our countries, and of course the VCM to be able to channel financing sources. So here, we want to provide a bridge between the climate financing and the private sector, and that it does represent a lot of challenges for the public policies. And we have important messages from within the region. Many countries have included in their CNCs agriculture as one of the priority sectors both for mitigation and adaptation, so we can see that interest and that protagonist role that many countries do have. In the chart on the right-hand side of your screens, you can see the green bars are those countries that in their NDCs have included agriculture. The blue is the first NDC that was presented. So as you can see, it has increased, the interest has increased, and that message has become more relevant. That the agricultural sector, it's important to comply with climate goals. A lot of these commitments are conditioned to international financing, which is an important message to convey as well. And some others are incorporated as a proprietary action. But what's really important is to show the interest by the different countries on how to address mitigation issues as part of their national contributions. Another important according to ECA, 12 out of 17 countries in Latin America have expressed their interest in using Article 6. Many also are reviewing how these strategies can be strengthened, and they are coming along a long way. And as per the messages from the sector, there's a great potential in mitigation. So there is, which have a high removal potential, estimated potential of zero point 0.9 GTCO2 in LAC. So we're talking about cacao, we're talking about coffee plantations that actually provide the opportunity to the VMCs as an interesting option. So we do have the challenges and that governments have to establish that route on how to link with the different markets and how to manage to do finance into the different sectors that is strategic, but that is very complex, such as agriculture. As you can see, that countries nowadays are in a strategic moment, planning their NDCs, updating them, and how to address from their different agencies all of the different challenges, design and implement this institutional capacity and finance. The national carbon taxes and ETS have emerged in the range but still need further consolidation. Some countries right now are deciding where on how to link to Article 6 opportunities and challenges. There's a lot of work done in LEC to understand that objective, how each country links to Article 6. On the other hand, the VMC providing experience and lessons, and that's very, very important when it comes to the lessons learned, the application of methodologies, the engagement of different stakeholders, the distribution of benefits that help a lot. And we have been witnesses to the fact that it has really helped the countries to understand dynamics of the markets and how from within the government you can adopt certain measures that can support finance and integrality. And on the other hand, we have the integrity frameworks are progressing and that are being consolidated on different fronts of the VMC strategy globally and domestically in different countries. So we have to analyze all of these and we need to try and conciliate all of these visions. So these are some of the important takeaways of access to uh, intentional access to this finance. So these are the two columns here. On the one hand, we have finance. On the other hand, we have integrity. So from the integrity, we can actually reduce risks for financing. And if we focus on topics like MRDs and information transparency, all of the different measures that can be taken to ensure social safeguards and environmental safeguards, and that is to be perceived in financing, usually in the VNCM and specifically in the agro sector. They can be reduced, and there are ways in which the government can take those actions. So that from the finance point of view, many of the webinars and our panelists here will probably be talking about these tools on how to reduce risk from finance with different collaterals, from fiscal incentives with support to add small scale farmers. But this environmental integrity, it's important to reduce and to increase, to reduce risk and to increase opportunities. And in closing, I'd like to say that I'd like to show some of the tools that we have created and that we have been promoted from the PAC initiative. so that you can actually take this information. So you have the policy tracker, which maps enabling environments in the region when it comes to policies for the VCMs in agriculture. And there you can see some important progress that have been taking places in the last month in various countries. And it's important to see how public policies come forward or come forth in our region. We have the policymakers course, which is being launched today. It's a course that is going to enable the governments to have the tools to move forward in the VCMs for agriculture. This is a course that will most probably be very useful as the foundation for many of the decisions that we have to make regarding how to reach with the information into different sectors and different stakeholders. And then we have the readiness index, which is a benchmarks the country's readiness for investment in high integrity, inclusive carbon markets in agriculture, which is very, very important. This is a tool which we are developing right now. And last but not least, we have uh, the AGREP. It's the AGREP implements a system for training farmers in sustainable and regenerative agriculture, all the way down to small scale farmers. And so this is an innovative train the trainer model. If you have any questions, I'd like to address them at the end in our Q&A session. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for keeping the time. You are well within time with 12 minutes. And thank you very much for having provided this first vision of the region, of the government, as well as of the PAC initiative and all of the progress that has been done. So the questions, we're gonna be having that at the end. So please write your questions in the Q&A box. So we will move forward with this session. After this, we are gonna be presenting our next expert, Tribuna de Brasset. So he is a global leader in VCMs. He has over 17 years of experience in climate financing, nature-based solutions, and innovative financing. Currently, he's leading the execution of agreements in climate asset management, where he is the director, and he has um, being in very strategic position in HSBC and South Pole, and just he is well known for in promoting blue carbon transactions under the agreement of 6.2. He also is a consultant for key organizations like Social Carbon. He is a master and an engineer, consolidating his technical profile in environmental sustainability. Today, he's going to be talking to us about investment strategy in agrocarbon markets and the opportunities for LAC. That includes reflections on integrity, scalability, on how to align priorities of investment and producers. So thank you very much, Mr. Triparat. Please go right ahead. We'll give you the floor now.
Thanks, Hatia. I know if I'm audible to everyone, and hope it's okay to do this in English, given my lack of understanding of Spanish. So please bear with me. Hi everyone, I'm Chip Prasad, and as my introduction was given, I'm leading the carbon vehicle for one of the largest natural capital asset managers called Climate Asset Management. Shall we move to the next slide? Um, as most of you may know, climate asset management has been now becoming a bit more of a named figure, but the story started 5 years back, where it was formulated as a joint venture between HSBC Asset Management and a climate advisory function, Pollination. We are a $1 billion committed capital platform right now with specific focus around bringing nature in the balance sheet for more our clients. And that's what we have been working for last 5 years, looking at natural capital as one of the emerging asset classes, and I'm would be delighted to spend more time around that, how the journey has been so far. And specifically, I think it would be nice to also cover where we also see Latin America as becoming a more and more discussion topic in various forums where investors are looking actually the Latin countries to lead the way around the whole solutions from a climate journey. Next slide, please. Just a bit of give a bit of a flavor that how we came into being. As I mentioned, we started as a JV, and initially those were our shareholders. And over a period of time, there has been a further traction around it. We have around two specific strategy. One focus on natural capital. One investing in global north, working around land management. It's a more of a real asset strategy where we procure and secure the land, and through various regenerative practices, we convert the land into sustainable land practices and provide return to our investor. Other half of our strategy is focusing more from a carbon delivery side and focusing on emerging markets, working across different value chain, looking into build those kind of climate resilience, climate adaptation, and land management programs, working with really hard to reach areas and hard to uh, uh, or the last mile impacted communities which would be participating in this program from a climate point of view. Uh, in those two strategies, one of them, the Natural Capital Fund, has been fully deployed, and we are looking into going for our next vintage in there. And similarly, the other one, it is still on the deployment phase. We are working across different geographies, Asia, Africa, and Latin America as we speak, to invest in those projects which are large-scale ecosystem restoration, which will work on specific agriculture commodities areas as well to deliver carbon credits in return, while also delivering a highest quality social benefits and also biodiversity program underneath that. Next slide. Yeah, this I think we would not spend too much time on it because from the earlier panel, it's been pretty much established that what the climate emergency is about and what we are looking at from a nature-based solutions to actually one of the key areas to deliver that. Now, often I think I would like to highlight that many times we also hear that nature-based solution is a bit more of a short-term solutions, and where the market is also emerging from a lot of other technical removals areas and technical projects. But personally, I do feel that nature-based solution is the long-term solution because that's where the whole climate journey is taking and impacting the most of the people across the globe in terms of their livelihood and sustenance of the program. And if those projects are designed in the right way, that brings that kind of elevation from a societal benefit point of view, which brings permanence in these projects. And it's good to see that there is a lot of tractions coming into the market as well, where people initially started with more like a carbon development program, but now it just looks like where carbon is becoming more catalytic to elevate the major issues around these food and other sustainable supply chains in picture. Next slide, please. And as we mentioned, like any other investment class, what we also see that it is the feature of nature in itself has a certain specific investment driver. It has a macros like features coming in where we can see the whole urbanization and population growth is demand driving that kind of demand, which could be more sustainable solutions around it. There has been also over the period of time where we are seeing the rising in middle income effect demanding and asking for the features around, for example, the organic food producers, or we're looking from a sustainable infrastructures programs coming more and more into nature, where even the larger capital from pension funds and others are also recognizing the effects that may have in their long-term portfolio for any investment manager. To downside the consumer as well, who look into these kind of solution from a long-term supply of supporting the infrastructure and also the population around it. And as we see that this from the supply side, the demand is pretty much driven through the overall climate narrative, the requirements of it, and also how the overall yield has been declining, and also there has been a large increase in the degradable land area coming in picture. So there is quite a bit of a story around and demand pull coming in where um, globally the leaders are looking at providing those solutions from a long-term income generations, demand generation, also and sustenance of the population and globally. Next slide, please. It's basic. Maybe we can skip this slide because it also covers the similar underlying and trends going forward, and it also gives a kind of a flavor around specifically if you look at from the overall world GDP point of view, that one of the major impact is coming from the agriculture, forestry, and fishing area, which actually commands quite a bit of substantial share around it. From the overall global investment capital asset classes point of view, you can also see that it's very much underserved right now, and it's bound to increase and take a bit of a larger share coming in the picture, where we see that there's a variety of different features coming into play from the alternatives, looking at from a really equity or debt-based transaction, where we are also looking into the features from the timberland investments. Can you go to the next slide? As I mentioned, like from the overall, what the narrative as well from institutional capital has been emerging is about that this provides a kind of a portfolio strategy for most of them. It also helps them to create a kind of a portfolio which may be hedging from a climate change and what the impact would be coming into their individual investment thesis. It is correlated from the different inflation correlation and the capital appreciation from the land plane itself. And it also provides the diversification and net zero story and the impact which will be created at scale. We move to the next slide. Now, to sum it up, as I mentioned, that initial previous slide, sorry. These are the focus strategies for us from a climate asset management solutions point of view. We increasingly see that more and more of these demands coming into the market. We have focused around really those countries as well, where we are working on return-seeking vehicle around natural capital strategy. And other two, we are focusing primarily around above 500 million, focusing around the emerging markets, specifically around the agroforestry, forestry, and similar supply chains around it to provide removals and some of the avoidance credits to our investors who are looking to achieve net zero. The case in point, maybe I will highlight from our own investment is two specific ones. One is, if you move to the next slide, from our real asset strategy, where we have invested into a degraded land through extensive production from the sugarcane, which we converted into a perennial macadamia crop, and through providing that sustainable land practices and through regenerative agriculture, we are able to improve and provide that return to our investor. It brings a kind of a good rounded story that while we are preserving the land and converting the land into a bit more natural habitat, while also providing the overall increasing the output from it in terms of the yield as well. Now, I think this will be a bit, as we move towards a more interested area, that how we look into some of the emerging markets as well. Similarly, this is one of our largest programs running in Africa, where we focus on the agroforestry and the sustainable land management. The target is to restore around 1 million hectares in across different countries within the Africa, where we're working with the smallholder farmer, which is like around a hectare or less than a hectare of the land area as well, to plant native trees, including some of the agriculture food produce, and helping them to also work through the markets to provide that end-to-end value chain driver around it. Next slide. Now, the previous slides give a kind of a flavor about our investment thesis so far has been, and we see that this investment thesis has been coming in more and more stronger around the globe as well from the institutional capital as well. And we strongly feel that's where probably the direction of the market is going. Specifically, when we want to deep dive into Latin America, we think there is an opportunity landscape is quite huge because it also provides certain features which I personally feel has gives a kind of a competitive advantage in the market in terms of the implementation skills, the maturity of the providers around the market. We tend to see is much higher than if you compare from other geographies in Asia and Africa, which is slightly on that curve. But like it appears Latin America has a substantial infrastructure advantage coming into that. Where we generally feel that needs to be an opportunity and challenges currently is, as mostly everyone has covered, is something around the regulatory environment, some of the land tenure requirement, which varies a lot, and that's where investments riskiness increases around it. But there is a strong feature around that, given that a large scale of the land areas as a feeder stock for the most of the world firms. If you look at from the coffee supply chain, from soy supply chain, and other supply chain coming from the forestry side of it, there is huge opportunities to be unlocked. There is a massive land bank area, and those very well trained, even farmers and the farming community over there who understand how to deliver these projects. It's more of a feature about working through those economic and the political challenges around it, covering your currency risk and some of the land related issues, which will help us further strengthen and bolt on to this opportunity around it. And in fact, I would want to leave it with the thoughts because it was again covered initially from the pack slides that some of the new instruments and structure and features I think is being pioneered in this particular market and coming up more and more in terms of the transactions, where we see the support of a blended finance occurring quite a bit. Some of the outcome bonds around it has been also been very formative. The underlying assets through which is being now being underwritten has been more of a stronger narrative around it, where we see also increasingly some of the regional and local commercial banks providing certain kind of security features, bringing a bit more additional capital and investment attractiveness in the market current around it. So I try to avoid a bit other thing, but we'll be happy to take in the questions as we go through, or maybe later.
Muchas gracias, Tripurari, por tu exposición y por
Thank you for
compartir.
your presentation and for sharing the evolution of this topic. Now, let's give the floor to our next expert, market management of capital market management of Bancolombia, Laura Hernandez. She will share the institutional vision of Bancolombia and the work in climate finances for agriculture and attraction of global investments. Laura has a lot of experience in the sector. She has worked in other institutions like the stock market, and she has a specialty, a master's degree in local economy from the School of Economy and Political Science. Thank you, Laura. Floor is yours. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We see you well and we can hear you well. Thank you for having invited me to this first webinar. This is going to be part of a regional series related to carbon market. So great to inaugurate this. And in addition to participate in next webinars, you're going to have interesting participation of Rurari and Sandra. Thank you, because it is good to listen to you and to make decisions in order to advance in the carbon market in relation to agricultural matters. I believe it is part of this construction of what we want, and this has to include capacity building aspects as well. And this comes from the capacity building from the government and the different sectors that are adding to understand how this market works, as well as the carbon market, how it works. I will start by telling you the first thing I know this goal is on a regional level. So I will tell you what is the CIBES group, and Bancolombia is part of this group. There is a large variety of auditorium in this conversation, so I'm going to go quickly to homologate knowledge. The agricultural funding, I will talk a little bit about the mitigation hierarchical aspect as well as carbon project funding. So first thing, what the CIBES group is. This group is a group leading present in Colombia and Central America, present in Guatemala, Salvador, Panama, and Colombia. To the right lower part, you can see the countries, and we lead the position both in Colombia and in El Salvador. In Panama and Guatemala, we have market leaders. We are listed in the New York stock market, and recently we celebrated 30 years of being part of this list, which is very good too for the organizations to be listed for such a long time in the New York stock market. Something important I would like to tell you, and I'm showing you our brands, products, or services. We are a bank, and we are known as a bank that provides loans, but we have many other services, among them investment banking or others that can also channel resources to the sector that are not necessarily only loans. Later on, I'll tell you a little bit more about this. So we are regionally present, and we are present in these 4 countries. Let's quickly define what a carbon credit is. A carbon credit is equivalent to a ton of carbon dioxide that is captured or sequestrated or avoided somewhere. You can see a document that tells you where this is captured or sequestrated. If there are trees that were planted that are capturing carbon dioxide, you can go and see the growth of the tree the previous year in order to comply with these carbon credits. This is a document showing where this carbon ton is captured or avoided. Sometimes this is mentioned as a carbon bonus. In the financial sector, a bonus is a debt instrument. A carbon certificate or a carbon credit is not the same as a green bonus or a social bonus or any of these bonus typologies that help the capital market in order to get resources for funding social matters. I want to tell you how this is going on in Latin America, particularly in the countries where we are present. The region in Latin America and the Caribbean, the first graph on the upper part, is the 4th major offerer of carbon credits in the world. So that helps us to have funding around this. But in addition to this, what you see to the upper left part, we have Colombia, the biggest issuer of carbon credits in the world. That gives us an indication about how we are positioned in the world in something Tripurari mentioned a while ago. This region with the natural capital and the potential generated in the carbon market is being seen by the world. And these figures confirm this market share. In the upper right part, we have countries with government mechanisms of compensation. Colombia is the only country with a mechanism, a positive mechanism linked to the carbon market. Panama is organizing something similar, and there are countries that do not have anything advanced on this, only volunteer schemes, and from the government point of view, no progress has been made so far. What are the projects registered with the best standard for you to see the leadership of Colombia in this market? And that also requires from us to revise how we can contribute to the Colombian system, but also what can we do for the other countries can take advantage of this potential. Revising the registries of Standard, Colombia has some 93 projects and others reaching 120 between the 2 standards. Guatemala, Panama, and Salvador see the difference of their projects registered under these standards. I would like to mention that So what happens with the livestock? These projects that we see in these gray bars, which ones are on livestock? This is the lower right part. In green, we have the livestock projects. This is on purpose because none of them are in livestock. Most of the projects in agriculture and forestry and land use are in red plus. So it is interesting to see what is happening with these projects. So we remain on a technical aspect, or are we saying that there are some projects duly formulated, but the obstacle is funding? I leave this question on the table. I'll continue, and I'm going to emphasize in what we are doing in Colombia with the leadership Colombia has from the government point of view, as well as from the number of projects in the carbon market. This is the funding, but Colombia has been the most sustainable bank of the world in two opportunities, in 2018 and 2021. That gives us a responsibility uh, in those sectors that are not being taken care by the bank. So we will try to see how to move there. What is our goal? Up to 2030, our goal is having mobilized 512 million pesos, $120,000 million. Yeah, $128 billion. And this is a very important goal because the mobilization of this resource depends on the conditions of technical structuring of the country. Let me talk about our climate commitment. Our climate commitment turns around some credit disbursement, but in addition to this, this is summarized in these three lines, although we have many other efforts. First of all, we are part of the Sustainable Livestock Group, and there we are the first bank. So if you want to understand what is the problem of the sector and how we can support the sector to be funded in a way that functions. Number two is a way to understand the small farmers through the Colombia Foundation. What can we do from the financial sector to understand these small producers through the arm of Colombia Foundation? We do that. What are we doing right now? Through a project through the Amazonia Emprende. Since 2021, we are supporting the effort Amazonia does to be able to move and to act as multipliers in the effort Amazonia Emprende is doing for the restoration livestock with producers. So this understanding through an arm like the arm of the foundation led us to understand in the bank what the problem is or what the needs of these small producers is. So thinking in funding of different magnitudes. So we connect with the investors of alternative assets. So they are working here in these investments in forestry. Yes, forestry or this type of investment that are generating carbon credits, but the magnitudes to manage are different. So through the Bank of Investment team, how we can link the small producers to understand what is the need of small producers, but also to understand what is being seen as a funding need at the global level, and to see how we can bring this to Colombia. This is the role of the investment bank. I also want to tell you this mitigation hierarchy because here we can see what we are funding the most. What is the first thing to do? We need to measure and to reduce before entering to compensate using carbon credits. So in Bancolombia, we're having a program where we facilitate the measurement and the reduction of the emissions of greenhouse gases in the companies. Simultaneously, we are developing this strategy that is compensated with carbon credits for those companies that may have these measurements and these reductions in carbon. The idea showing you this slide is that one, there are many efforts in measurement and reduction, and we are starting to understand this carbon market topic for compensations because of this mitigation hierarchy that forces us. And the second thing I would like to mention to you is that this is a way to go for the carbon market sector, but as well as other sectors. Partnerships like the one mentioned by RRR, that's the way they found to technically link to the sector and to understand the sector. As we need to make an effort to understand the sector, we need to have a challenge in how to generate projects from the technical point of view, projects that may be banked. And this bankability needs a way to go. The projects are not banking from 0 to 1. There is a way to go in order to reduce the risk of the projects for them to be banked. So this is not seen at the sector level. How can the sector move to be funded first and through with the groups that know the investment, and then to start migrating to third parties, asset managers or banks that can link to this, but where risk more reduced. So this is a two-way task, particularly with the COP30. This is our intention, that we can see what are exactly these funding needs in the COP30 and what are the projects that are escalating, or these funding searchers that have already escalated this line on how to reduce the risk to projects in order to get there, and to see how we can act, if we can act as loan givers, or if we can act through the foundation because there are small producers, those who have their projects, or we can act through the investment bank to link projects that have some risks with some type of investors. We would like to see exactly what are the needs of the sector to make the service offer we can generate. This is it. Thank you. Thanks to you, Laura, for your presentation and also for respecting the time. The three speakers have been concise with their information and giving a lot of examples and inputs we hope are going to be useful. I see the questions, not in the questions and answers, but on the chat box. I see a couple of questions that I will read. The first one is from Gianni Murillo. He says, how interventions in regeneration, sorry, and capture of the carbon dioxide from inputs can be certifiable for agroindustry. And the other one, how the reevaluation of residues of agroindustry waste generate this opportunity of carbon markets, products that help in this system. This is well, there are two questions, and we also have from Diana. She asked if within these interventions there are calls to climate funding. I believe Laura detailed this, but if you want to add anything else, we have these questions. So I'll give the floor to each speaker for you to comment if you have any comment to make, starting with Sandra, in case you have a comment related to these questions. Thank you, Katia, and thank you for the questions. I believe the first two are similar questions. I would like to go on the side of the project cycle, in order to have credits, as Laura mentioned, credits for emissions reduction. It is important to see that the type of activities conducted in any sector, in this case in the agricultural sector, have some methodology aimed to measure and report the emissions first and the emissions reduction. And to do so, there are methodologies already approved and several standards. And right now for Article 1.4, we are 6.4, we are revising methodologies and different sectors that can be taken care with the carbon markets. It is important to see this on a case-by-case basis. If the methodologies exist, how these methodologies can be applied into these projects. An important topic that I believe we have not mentioned here is that sometimes for the scale is important for funding purposes. So it is important to see how much projects and initiatives reduce is relevant. And we need to see if an option, an alternative could be to group these projects with different sources of emissions and reductions. So let's say that there is a whole steps to follow in relation to the identification of possible reductions and identification of methodologies to take care to understand how credits could be generated from some activities. And for the second question on our behalf, with back, we do not have funding calls. What we have are capacity building schemes, what we are leading right now, starting with our initiative. So we invite you to see these resources to understand what these carbon markets are and how we can start to dynamize activities from the sector, activities eligible for markets. Thank you, Sandra. Laura, anything else to add in relation to this question? Okay, thank you. I also see in the questions chat box that there is a question about the negotiations that Tripurari already answered in the context, but if you'd like to add anything else about this question or the previous ones, Tripurari?
No, thanks. I included the answer around it, but yeah, on the 6.2 and 6.4, it's still emerging. I think 6.2 is a bit more around the bilateral negotiation which are happening. Some countries are slightly bit more advancing around it, like from the Peru point of view, where you can see certain projects are being taken into 6.2 consideration. So how it is working that every country is also approaching, like what is the white list or the list of the projects that will be qualified for the bilateral discussion from generation of something called ITMOs. And based on that, these the bilateral negotiation from different countries are currently happening. On 6.4 is a bit more driven through the UN, and where they will be coming back on the methodologies which will be accepted. So right now, on specifically, if you look at agriculture, that's not in place, but we soon we will see something in next 2 years or so that coming forward from that. So it's slightly not unclear from that side how this is going to go forward. But at the individual bilateral countries, it's looks starting to look encouraging. I'm not sure if that answered, but
Muchas
if you can
gracias.
go ahead.
Bueno, y en realidad muchas gracias por por las tres
Thank you, and thanks for the three presentations and for the questions we have received today. I believe we arrived to the conclusion of this first session. Remember, as we said, I see some people have been introduced here. Thank you for that. Those who have introduced yourself in the chat box, hope you were able to register in our email list. I really thank you for the participation of the speakers, but also on behalf of the PAC initiative as well as AICA. biocarbon. Particularly, I want to thank the support given by Paula Chacon and Daniel Ortega for this first session we had. And I would like to invite you to the next two in dates, which is October 8th and December 3rd, to be with us again. It is a pleasure for us having been able to facilitate this first encounter. We know the discussion is just beginning, and we are always paying attention to the scopes and what grounds in the countries. And we, our next session will address this scheme, as well as the situations that occur in regional global spaces with that affect the dynamics we may have. We also like to address the public and private sector in this topic. This is a wealth for us, and we believe we are on a very important time because we see more and more participation and consultation. So I want to thank you again, the three speakers, Laura, Sandra, and Tripurari, for being here with us today. And we want to thank the participants that joined this meeting. We will send the information to the participants. You have our initiative information related to initiatives, as well as of the course that we started today. Today was the launch where you will be the first ones to have the possibility to register. Hopefully you will join us in this new activity, and we want to thank everyone, our colleagues in the Institute, our ICT team, interpretation team, technical support team. We hope to see you in our next web seminar. Remember, this is going to be on Wednesday, October 8th. So thank you. A pleasure to have you and hope to see you soon. Have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you.